no matter who I talk to, when the subject of Christmas comes up, it's the story of a Christmas from the past that the person wants to tell me. It may be the story of a Christmas from childhood or from being the parent of small children. It may be the story of the last Christmas shared with a loved one now gone. Or it may be the story of a Christmas celebrated during a time of great hardship, during a time when we would think there wasn't much worth celebrating at all. These stories, the stories of Christmases during hard times, have a similar theme. That the celebration of the birth of Jesus can be like a tonic to those in need, to those who have little to celebrate in the eyes of the world. This is one such story. It's my story. It was 8 o'clock in the morning as the woman inside the food stamp office, a government program for low-income people in the U.S., when the woman unlocked the door from the inside and let in the 20 or so people who'd been gathering at the door for the last 30 minutes. One of that group was me. Me at age 28 with long dark hair and a 3-year-old in tow. We were all there early because in those days people applying or reapplying for food stamps weren't allowed to make an appointment with the social worker, but instead had appointments on a first-come, first-served basis. And so I, like many others, had lined up early so that we could get the earliest possible time in the wait to see the person who would complete our application with us and would, right in front of us, calculate whether or not we qualified for the certificates that could be used later to purchase food in the grocery store. It was December, and the little office was filled with reminders of Christmas, plastic greenery with red bows hanging from the receptionist's desks, and cutouts of rosy-cheeked Santas on the walls. A little crooked Christmas tree decorated with construction paper, snowflakes, and lights stood on a small table in the corner. But for all of these festive decorations, the office was a depressing place to be. For it was filled with people who had come together to apply for food. Old people with deep lines in their faces and expressions that said, "We have done this many, many times before." Afflicted people with portable tanks of oxygens or canes or walkers. Unemployed people who looked either restless or listless. And of course, there I was, a married, college-educated woman with a 3-year-old, a woman who believed herself to be temporarily in need, briefly passing through this place on account of temporary, unfortunate circumstances. Things moved slowly. The receptionist called a number and a man or woman got up and was shown to a back office. Then 40 minutes later, this same person emerged. Then another number was called. As a woman with an active, curious child, my objective was simply to survive the experience, and so I brought toys, books, Cheerios, and lunch to cajole and distract my daughter. We worked through these things one at a time and then worked through them again. But she was restless, and I, of course, was uncomfortable just being in a place where the alternative to being down on your luck was having no luck at all. It was about this time, after toys and books and Cheerios and lunch, not once but twice, that the outside door to the office opened and someone new walked in. She was young, an African-American woman in a jacket with the hood up, so it was hard to see her face. Right behind her came another woman, older, holding something down low. It was a baby carrier, and in it was something or someone so bundled and blanketed that someone was completely out of sight. The two began unzipping their coats to sit down. From the similarity of their features, they had to have been mother and daughter, both with high cheekbones and strong, proud faces. Neither made eye contact with the others in the waiting room, but turned their attention to the slow process of unpeeling whatever or whoever was in that baby carrier. In response to this, the little waiting room started to wake up and come alive. A bored young man sitting next to the two women moved his belongings over to make more room for the baby carrier and the diaper bag. A middle-aged woman with a portable oxygen tank, who had sat holding her number with her eyes closed, opened her eyes and watched as the baby was being unblanketed. An older man with a cane began to make his way to the water fountain at our end of the room, clearly just wanting to get a look. And my little restless toddler stopped what she was doing and watched in silence for the baby that she hoped would be revealed. And revealed he was. Out of one, then two, then three layers of blankets, out of the tiny coat he was dressed in, and out of a little blue onesie, out he came, a tiny newborn with skin the color of dark coffee and a full head of hair, a perfect little boy. It was at that moment that the receptionist, the great dispenser of numbers, the gatekeeper through whom all had to go to get to the social worker, the receptionist got up out of her chair, walked over to the two women, and leaned in towards the baby. "Why, look at this," she said. "Look at this pretty little boy. It looks like the baby Jesus has come early this year." This, of course, was all that my little 3-year-old daughter needed. "Is that baby Jesus?" she asked in a loud voice. The room laughed out loud. Or was it that some of them shouted for joy? For me, the question hung in the air. "Is that baby Jesus?" "Yes," I said. "Yes." You could say that the story of God being born to Mary and Joseph, a family that had little, is all about God's favor coming to and resting on the poor and the needy. You could say that people who deeply understand the significance and gift of God taking on our flesh are those people who have little more than the flesh they themselves are carrying around. You could say both of these things and you would be absolutely right. But tonight, today, I would also say this, that the story of God being born to us, to all of us, is the story of God's relentless love for a world that easily loses track, that the sacred, that the holy, lives and breathes and burns brightly in the heart of things, and therefore in the lives that already belong to us, even in pandemic. Even as the striving for justice continues to go on within us and around us. And I would also say this, that the invitation to us is to keep looking for the sacred and the holy that comes to us not just once a year, but over and over, as fresh as a newborn child, full of hope, possibility, and joy. And that our lives are to witness to and enact this world of hope, possibility, and joy for the sake of those we love and for the sake of a world that at times can seem dark and weary and hopeless. "Is that baby Jesus?" my daughter asked, like many children, ready to behold him right in front of her eyes, in a place and at a time that adults would never expect. Tonight, that baby, that holy child, lives right beside us, lives right in front of us, lives deep within us, ready to be the hope, ready to be the possibility, ready to be the joy that we and the world need.